After a winless week and a rash of injuries, it seems like the sky is falling in Montreal, but they can right this ship. They just might need some help. We'll get into that today on Locked On Canadiens.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast doing. That supports us here on the show and ensures you do not miss an episode of Locked On Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network. I really do enjoy saying that. It's nice to be number one. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as @MaybeIt'sIan, and I'm joined, as I always am, by Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick. Laura, neither of us are on the IR, but that list is getting extensive for the Canadiens. How are you feeling? Yeah, I think that sums it up.
Yeah, that is a sound effect. That was not me screaming. That is a sound effect. But that is how I feel. It just feels like when it rains, it pours, right? Like if the Canadiens were winning and they had like an injury, that would be one thing, which we did see that with Kaiden Guhle, right? And we're like, they can rally. And then they started losing and they're like, we're looking at how many therapy days people are taking. And we're looking at, like, is this guy getting up after blocking a shot? And now we're in a position right now where Newhook's out for a very long time. Kaiden Guhle is out for a long time. And now Kirby Dach is out for a long time. It doesn't, like, I feel like the number of months or weeks, like, it just feels like forever.
Yeah, that pretty much sums up. Look, we're going to cover the week that was the losses and mostly the injuries in our second segment. We'll get into our forecast, talk about what's to come for the Canadiens and how they can dig themselves out of this. But let's start on Saturday night. I found the game on Saturday interesting for a couple of reasons. So usually we record right after a game, right? And we don't have the benefit of sleeping on it and thinking about it. Saturday night games are different. We don't record Saturday nights. We usually hold off until Sunday, which is when we're recording now. And I left the Saturday game feeling very frustrated and annoyed by how that game played out because I did not think that the Bruins played their best game. Montreal they did all the damage to themselves. 2 very lengthy 5-on-3s where Marty changed up the power play units, just like he did in the earlier one against the Kings, and to the same result. I think across all 3 of those 5-on-3s, I think they generated 2 shots on goal. They missed the net a lot in this game against Boston in very key opportunities. What I find
they also
so
did
shocking,
not shoot enough.
Exactly, that was where I was going to go too. Just from how this season, the one knock everyone had on the Canadiens was, well, the shooting percentage isn't sustainable. And it doesn't even seem like the Canadiens let it get to a point where we were seeing that regression. It seems like they gained no confidence from being the hottest shooting team in the league. And now they're constantly looking for that extra pass. They're constantly looking for the perfect shot, and they end up buzzing it wide of the net. They hit the post a bunch of times against Boston. I think Suzuki had one, Hudson had one, Slafkovsky had one late on the power play. That, like, if it's a couple inches to the right, we're talking a different story today. But it wasn't. What else did you see in that game against Boston?
I feel like they didn't play, like, I feel like it was an unevenly paced game.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a lot of shenanigans and a lot of skirmishes. I don't understand why there were so many fights. I do understand that, like, there was definitely something brewing from before the game even started. And you started, like, the puck gets dropped and then the gloves get dropped immediately after.
Yeah.
And so, like, I felt like there was a lot of that. I felt there was a lot of, like, unnecessary getting distracted from, like, they weren't focused enough, if that makes sense, right? Like, I felt like they kept losing their minds in not the play, but the sideshow.
Yeah, I think that they wanted to show some emotion to start this game, which I don't have an issue with at all, especially after the last 2 games that got out of hand very quickly.
They wanted to set a tone.
Yeah, exactly. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with, Jaden Struble wanting to start the game off with a bang. maybe fighting Nikita Zadorov isn't the best play in your mind, but again, that was a very staged fight. At the end, they hugged each other. Like, it was very bizarre. The Xhekaj fight, at the very least, was Bolduc laid a hit at center, Gallagher laid a hit down low, Xhekaj followed up on that hit, and Jeannot is like, that's it, I have to do something about that. If anything, that was the Bruins reacting, in my opinion. And then later on, you saw Mark Kastelik try to force Josh Anderson to fight after a hit didn't even connect. He went to go hit somebody and missed him, and Kastelik was like, whoa, we can't have that, and needed to fight him. And for not doing that, and there's no reason he needed to do that. The Bruins bench was chirping Anderson for not fighting after a missed hit. I think it's too stupid to fight after a clean hit, let alone one that didn't even connect. But that's entirely. Look, the power play is the story in this one. They go 0 for 7. They haven't scored a power play goal in 5 games.
It's ugly.
2 very lengthy 5-on-3s. They just kind of moved the puck around the perimeter. And they did the same thing that they did against the Kings game that I was like, this is on Marty. And that is, in those 5-on-3s, they took Juraj Slafkovsky off the top unit, and they put Noah Dobson on it. And what that essentially does is it takes a player off who their role is playing the front of the net or the sides of the net, very close to where you score the goal. And instead, you've put a guy as far away from the goal as possible, and you're trying to generate offense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. I think maybe the thought process is, if you have Dobson, maybe it pulls that top forechecker up a little bit, opening up the passing lanes through the slot. But the problem is, the passing lanes through the slot, they don't matter if the recipient never shoots the puck. Like, they're just shooting. Is this personnel? Is this just how they're thinking it? Is this process and systems? Like, what is happening here?
Process and systems more than anything else, I think, because the personnel, we've seen them do different things, whether it's on another team before they came here or they're here and we've seen them do it here. I think it is a process and systems thing. And I think that maybe the framework is there, but the execution is lacking. In which case you have to have more conversations. Like, I know a lot of times when like execution is poor, like, you tend to blame the personnel, but like sometimes it's the communication, right? And I think that, and I do feel that against LA, we talked about how bad their passing was. Like, nobody's pass was connecting. They gave away so many pucks, right? And I feel like that kind of, like, I don't know if anyone actually explicitly spoke to them about it or not, but that's the kind of thing that gets like stuck on your mind. And then all of a sudden you're like, I made a joke about them practicing passing during the game, but I really feel like what they tried to do was like they changed their default from doing whatever it was that wasn't working to like connecting great passes. And like, that's great. I love to see, Cole Caulfield or Nick Suzuki move around. I love to see that motion, but I would like to see some shots going towards the net, or I would like to see a body going towards the net. That was also severely lacking against Boston.
Yeah. I hate to hand it to Gary Galley. I hate it. I don't love that those words even left my mouth, but he was on this from partway through the game, and he hammered it the entire way, which was, they're not putting anybody in front of the goalie. Yes. Swayman is able to see every single shot that comes to him. Same thing with Darcy Kemper. Same thing with Casey DeSmith. Nobody is going to the front of the net and making life hard for these guys. And coming into this game, we know Dach is hurt now, but Slafkovsky, Dach, Bolduc, Anderson, you have big dudes. Go stick them in front of the net so the goalie can't see. I don't know why this is that complicated. This is like level 1. Here's how you learn how to play hockey. You make sure the goalie can't see it. When you can't score in the playoffs, what do? You throw shots on net through traffic. That's what they all say. And then they get into these games and they completely forget. They just have no interest in doing that. Slafkovsky might even deflect the puck here or there. He's got great hands. Bolduc has made himself entirely uninteresting. And this would be a way for him to get back into the swing of things. Just park yourself in front of the net. I don't know why. Yeah. The fact that nobody's doing it makes me think that the Canadiens don't want to play that way. And I cannot bring myself to believe that's true.
No. I can't think, like, that's how you win hockey games. Like, that's how everyone does it. No matter how much the game evolves, like, that is a key way to win a game, or at least score some goals.
Yeah. Exactly. Look, I mean, if I want to take one positive away from that game, it's that they didn't quit. Right? They were in it till the end.
They played
It's just
better.
yeah. Yeah, they don't look to quote a Martyism, they don't have their fastball, they don't have their off speed, they don't have anything right now, but they're all gutting it out, right? They're
Yeah.
all out there just trying to make this work. It's not like they've quit on each other, they haven't quit on this coach. They're out there trying. It's just it's not clicking right now.
It's not
And we'll get
connecting the
into
way
the
we
weekly
want it.
recap and talk a little bit more about that and the injuries and then the forecast to tell us what comes next. But I think if you're looking for a positive for me, that's what I'm taking out of that Boston game is that the effort was there. You know, it was as honest a loss as you can possibly have when you've just lost 3 in a row. All right, let's leave that there. When we come back, we'll cover off the rest of the week and the rash of injuries that the Canadiens have found themselves having to deal with. We'll figure out if some outside help is necessary at this point. We'll get into that in just a minute on Locked On Canadiens.
This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in. The app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. And Locked On Canadiens can vouch for that because that is how we find tickets to go to games together. In fact, this upcoming weekend, Locked On Canadiens and one spouse are going to a game thanks to Game Time. And you can see the view from your seat before you buy, and there's no hidden fees at checkout. It truly is a stress-free way to find tickets. They get zone deals where you can pick the section you want to sit in, and they'll pick your seats. You end up saving big. And sometimes you can even find NHL tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. The show is also sponsored by Farm to Fork. And if you're a fan of premium quality, locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door, I've got some exciting news for you. Farm to Fork makes it easy to get high-quality steaks, air-chilled chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more, all with no antibiotics, hormones, or GMOs. Plus, everything comes flash frozen and individually packaged for your convenience. All Farm to Fork meats are raised on Canadian farms, so when you order, you're supporting local producers, especially as it's time to buy Canadian. Farm to Fork's meats are top-notch. I've had some amazing steaks that were tender, juicy, and perfectly cooked. And their chicken is air-chilled, so it's fresher and much more flavorful than what you would get in the store. And the wild-caught seafood is a game changer. It's fresh, clean, and full of flavor. They're delivering all across Ontario and Western Quebec, and the best part is delivery is free with a minimum order of $199. You don't even have to leave the house to get this quality. I've got a special code just for you. Use LOCKEDON40 to get $40 off your first order at Farm to Fork. Visit farmtoforkdelivery.ca to start stocking up on the best meats around. Again, that's LOCKEDON40 for $40 off your first order at farmtoforkdelivery.ca. Farm to Fork, delicious locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door.
All right, we're back. News. Lots of news has come out the last few days. Well, the biggest news story, of course, I got a haircut. No, that's not it. Canadiens announced on Friday that Alex Newhook and Kaiden Guhle would be out for more time. Alex Newhook out with a fractured ankle, which was probably among the worst case scenarios for that crash into the boards against the Dallas Stars. Kaiden Guhle, they just kind of slipped this one in there that, oh yeah, Kaiden Guhle also needed surgery for the injury. He was out. He's out 8 to 10 more weeks. We then
After he skated.
Right. So what this kind of told me was they were going to see if his muscle injury would heal with rest and rehab. They were at the point where they were ready to try it. It didn't heal. They said, okay, it's time for surgery. So could they have saved time at the beginning by doing surgery? Sure, but they thought there was a decent chance that didn't need to happen. So they took a risk. It didn't pay off. That's what life is about. Then, of course, we learn after the Saturday game, Kirby Dach, after blocking a shot, fractures his foot. He is out 4 to 6 weeks. The Canadiens have just lost 3 very important players. I mean, Guhle was already out, but we've lost him for even longer than we would have anticipated. We were thinking maybe he'd be back in a couple weeks, and now we're 2+ months away from that happening. What loaded question? What do they do?
They have to do a lot of things. In the short term, they're going to be calling up people. We already know that Joshua was called up after the Kirby Dach injury was announced. I do think that right now, and we talked about this, we have a special episode coming up with Scott on Wednesday. So we've already filmed that, just full disclosure. And we think that there's an opportunity for a defenseman to get called up as well. And I think that it's in the Canadiens' best interest not to have it just be a body, i.e., it's Mark Del Gaizo, not Michael Del Zotto. I always combine the names. So
I think I did that to you, so that's my fault.
Yeah. So strategically, I think it would be in their best interest to call up somebody like Adam Engstrom, to call up somebody that's not like a body, but like a piece, if that makes sense. There's a huge difference between the two. And I know he doesn't play the way that Kaiden Guhle does, but still, that's something that they should have in their back pocket, especially the more you see out of Jaden Struble and Arbor Xhekaj. If you're not seeing what you love, then you have that in your back pocket. But they also, they need to, they've already got Jared Davidson up. And I feel bad because I think he had a great game, but that was overshadowed with so many other things. I was surprised that they chose him for the call up, but seeing him play, I understood exactly why. And that's a player that if you listen to the show for a long time, we've kind of been rooting for that guy for years now. And so, it was great to see him. And I really loved his game against Boston. But you can't just have that and Joshua Roy, right? You have to bring in a body, and you have to bring in a body either by signing someone, which isn't going to work out because David Kampf signed in Vancouver, which if you had to pick between these two teams, why you're picking Vancouver, I don't know.
His prerogative, man. I don't know either, but this is Locked On Canadiens, not Locked On Canucks. So
I know it's but you have to trade for someone, and now they have to do something because yes, there's going to be options in Laval, and we talked about them on Wednesday, but you need a solution that's a long-term solution, not somebody that needs to go back to the league they're developing in.
Yeah, so they needed to trade for a center before Newhook and Dach got hurt. Let's be honest about now what we're looking at. We're looking at at center depth of Suzuki, Kapanen, Evans, Joe Veleno.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's if your goal is to be a playoff team, that is not going to cut it.
And the answer is not in Laval either.
No, there is Owen Beck, call him up again. No, that's not.
No.
That's why they didn't call him up. If I'm being honest, he can't be that offensive option that they would need. I really think Kent Hughes is going to owe this team a trade. I think he owes this team a trade for the start that they had. Now they're in a little bit of trouble of their own doing, but also just the injuries, losing Newhook and Dach is. It's a big blow to this team, especially because it just seems like that second line has been cursed for 3 or 4 years now, where just if you play on the second line, you're going to get hurt. That's just how it has worked for the Canadiens. They haven't been able to create a second line that has mattered in the grander sense because they just keep getting hurt. I think it's important for the development of Ivan Demidov and not only the development of Ivan Demidov, but the importance that he has to this offense. They need to play him with people who can play offensively. Can you move Jared Davidson up there after one game? Probably not, but I would like to see them start getting a little bit creative internally to see what they can create. Again, I'm just begging for Zach Bolduc to do something, to show up again. He's throwing the body, but his play with the puck is shockingly bad right now. I've really had a hard time watching him play and think this guy is going to play in the top 6 or middle 6 of this team anytime soon. He's playing like a fourth liner. He's going to be used like a fourth liner. Doesn't play special teams until now. And we'll cover that off in our weekly forecast segment. But I have a hard time thinking that the answer is in that room. It was until we found out Kirby Dach got hurt, and now you kind of out of options. I think Kent Hughes owes them a trade for another center, and that's going to be tough to come by.
Because also, like, the other teams are going to be smelling blood, and they're going to be squeezing the Canadiens for a lot of return.
Sure. Well, and just the center market is just very seller focused right now. Nobody is selling anything, which is why I think David Kampf had a couple teams that were like willing to sign him days after his contract was terminated. It's why there's one center seemingly available in Nazem Kadri, and he's not even available. Like, you're going to have to go and pluck somebody away from a team that maybe we don't know is available yet. One of the names I keep thinking of and coming back to is Ryan O'Reilly in Nashville.
Yeah.
They're awful. Yeah. He makes $4.5 million this year and next. He's a left shot center who wins a ton of his faceoffs, and he has zero trade protection. And I know Nashville doesn't want to trade him anywhere he doesn't want to go. Ultimately, the Canadiens need to make that a difficult choice for Nashville and go get a player like that. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Maybe that fixes things. Anything else on the week before we move on?
No, honestly, like, everything that could possibly have gone wrong did go wrong. Their goalie, like their goalie that was unstoppable, like, allowed seven goals. So everything that could possibly have gone wrong. So for me, and I know we're going to talk about this up next, like, it can only get better from here. And I'm knocking on wood at the same time that I'm saying this, like, because bad luck, sometimes when it rains, it pours.
Yeah. I think it's also important to note that the Canadiens had given up 13 consecutive goals this week, which tied a franchise record. If Evans did not score next against Boston, it would have set a record. That the last time 13 goals against happened consecutively was 1940. So the Canadiens avoided some unfortunate history, and that was basically the only win they got all week. All right. When we come back, we'll do our weekly forecast. We'll cover the teams that we're playing against this week, what to expect, and some lineup changes that are on the way for Montreal. And we'll get into that in just a minute here on Locked On Canadiens. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'll say that again. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Montreal is in Columbus. A reminder, that is Prime Monday Night Hockey. So that is a 7:30 start. Even though it is a road game in Columbus, I guess they have acquiesced the starting time for Amazon Prime Monday Night Hockey. Laura, should we tease that our fun little thing we have coming today?
We have a special preview of the game coming up. It's going to be a bonus episode, and we're hoping to have it up just like in the early afternoon. But please look out for that. It's something really, really exciting. The only reason I'm not like saying it is because we've been burned in the past where we've had like incredible guests and they've not been able to make it at the last minute. But we will have a special preview just for that Monday Night Hockey on Prime game coming on, like, wherever you get wherever you get our podcast, like on YouTube and on all of the audio channels.
Yeah, very excited. Yeah, fingers crossed we'll still be able to get this done. But, obviously sports media, everyone's moving around at the speed of light.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to tease it because I'm very excited, not only for our listeners to hear it, but also for us. It's a pretty great get for us. All right. Montreal in Columbus, Prime Monday Night Hockey. They will have different looking power plays in that game. At practice on Sunday, the two units are the first unit is Hudson, Suzuki, Bolduc, Slafkovsky, and Caulfield. So notably, Ivan Demidov moved to Unit 2. Unit 2 being Dobson, also Suzuki, Kapanen, Demidov, and Gallagher. Why did this happen?
He's going to end up playing like 50 minutes a night.
Yeah.
It happened.
This goes back to what we were just saying. They need to find another option. They need to find somebody else to do stuff.
Yes. So I do think, though, I will say this, is I do think that like Nick Suzuki's in that second position, second wave as a placeholder because they think that they're going to do something to fix that, right?
Sure.
Like there's no guy there right now, but there'll be a guy, right? They'll call up a guy, they'll find a guy. I do think it's interesting that they moved Bolduc, or that they're using Bolduc there, because I do think that the message is to go to the net. I do think that that is something that he has been able to do in the past. I don't know why he's not doing it in Montreal, or he's not doing it since the preseason or whatever. But that's going to be his bread and butter. So maybe that's going to be the message, is that your position, you're parking your butt in front of the goalie, right? Like he should be looking at your butt at all times. If the goalie's not looking at your butt, you are failing your assignment on this power play. That's what I think they're doing. And that's what I hope they're doing. And that's the message I hope that they get. I'm still kind of, I don't understand what Marty is doing with the power play units as much right now, particularly on the 5-on-3. But I don't know if Marty knows what he wants.
I think Marty tanked their confidence. I'll be completely honest with you. I think taking Slafkovsky off of those, they had 3 5-on-3s in a single week, and they did not generate a decent scoring chance on all of them. And what the core thing that combines all of those was Dobson. Dobson being put on there. And this isn't a slight against Dobson. I've loved his start to the season.
He's great.
He's fantastic. But you're breaking up a unit that has, to this point, worked pretty well. This week was really tough. They hadn't been able to score in a while. But like, I feel like you're doing that and you're telling the unit, we don't believe that you guys can get this done at 5-on-3. I feel like he tanked their confidence, and it's going to take practice to pull them back into it. Problem is, I don't know if you've looked at their schedule for December. There's no time for practice. I think they have one span where they have 2 days off between games and then the holiday break. And that's it. They're playing every other day. They play almost every Sunday through the month of December. Like it's not there. They have no time. But we'll see different units against Columbus. Let's talk briefly about the week that the Canadiens have ahead. They play Columbus and Washington this week to start the week. Those are the two worst teams in the Metro right now. Right, I believe Columbus is second last and Washington is last in that division. What are you looking for in those two games? I know Washington is the playoff rematch. I think that's the one I'm gravitating more to. Yeah. Dobish gets the start in Columbus, and I would imagine Montembeault gets the next two. What are you looking for across those two? And then I want to focus specifically on the Saturday game against Toronto.
I think all the teams are playing this week are underperforming teams, right? They're not meeting expectations for very many reasons. I think against Columbus, you kind of have to build on the positives from Boston, but also work on reducing the negatives. We talked a little bit about not shooting and not going to the net. So that's what I'm looking for from them. Is I want you to like have the same kind of framework where you are generating, but I would like them to generate a little bit more in the goalie direction and not just around the goalie peripherally. So I'm looking for them to hold the line. Like I like to call it as holding the line, because they're going to have to hold the line a lot between now and when these important guys come back. So I'm looking for better play. I'm looking for like really like just, again, that killer instinct that we always talk about. But now we're in a situation where they're not shooting. So that is the biggest thing that's going to fix their game. Then I think against Washington, the most important part is not allowing the mental aspect of the game to get the better of you. Yeah.
I think you're right. They have to make life harder for the goalies. I think that's been it's like, for me, there's two big stories this week. The power play stunk and life was not difficult enough for every goalie they played against. I think the Columbus game is a perfect opportunity to get back to that. I think, you say Bolduc on the power play is to stand in front of the net. I think that's part of his assignment. The other assignment is he's going to sit in the slot and be the recipient of a bumper pass and try to one-time it in. You go back and you look at the goals he scored as a St. Louis Blue, a lot of them on the power play. That's how he scored them. So, like, if you're trying to find ways to get Bolduc more involved, this is the way to do it. I hope he can capitalize on those chances. The Washington game, you're right. They can't let the emotional aspect of this get the better of them, but they have to embrace it, right? They have to live in that moment. You can't just be like, it's just every other game, because Washington will run you out of the building. That can't happen. You need to embrace the fact that this might be a new rivalry for you. Yes, Washington has had a tougher start to the season. They're going to be without Pierre-Luc Dubois for a little bit, so take of that what you will. But that's a big game for them. And then Saturday, the biggest game of the week. They're playing another team that's struggling. We're going to be at that game. It will be my first game at the Bell Center, so really hoping that the Canadiens do me a solid in that one and remember to shoot the puck and hit the net with it. The Toronto Maple Leafs come to town on Saturday. What are you expecting in that game? Because I think that game is a giant wild card.
Absolutely. And we've seen this before where Montreal was the inferior team, but they were able to beat Toronto or the other way around. And for me, the thing I would hate is for Toronto to figure out all of their issues in the next week, just ready for Saturday. I think if the Montreal Canadiens really, they did it for the Boston game too. The crowd was really into it. They really got up for the game, right? That's what I want to see from them, because Toronto right now is in complete disarray. And unfortunately, I do think there's going to be points where they're also going to be competing for the same trade pieces as Montreal might be, just so that they can shake things up. I think Montreal needs to beat them to it. But I also think that just in general, they need to remember that game, they cannot allow Toronto an inch. They need to remember how they outplayed them incredibly well in that first game of the season, even though they lost. Montembeault is probably going to get the start. It's a Saturday night at the Bell Center. I really need him to not let in a single stinker. He needs to really get it together.
Well, I thought against Boston, Montembeault was great. Except for that one stinker he gave.
There's always one.
There's always one. Just put one up on the board for whatever team they're playing against when Montembeault's there. And right now, he might only give up a couple more. I think he's playing fine. I think they need to figure it out around him.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you said, they need to make life difficult for the opposing team, not just the goalie. They just need to make life difficult for Toronto, because they're having conversations we need to get Austin Matthews going.
You cannot. I know that we have a week between now and then, between when they play. You cannot let Toronto get up off the mat. They are. The one thing I loved, and I said this in the first segment, the one thing I loved against the Boston Bruins on Saturday was they did not quit.
Yeah.
The effort was there. They were trying really, really hard. The Leafs are not. They're quitting on each other. They're quitting on that coach. You cannot give them an opportunity to get off the mat.
Mm-hmm.
Make that be a game that makes them decide, we're probably just going to blow this whole thing up. That's your goal as the Montreal Canadiens on Saturday night. Not only because I'm going to be there, but it doesn't hurt. That, I don't want to waste a bunch of money to watch you guys forget to shoot the puck. All right. Let's leave that there. Look, trivia is going to take a quick hiatus this week. We recorded all these episodes kind of out of order, so it'll be back towards the end of this week. We're not going a full week without it, but we won't have a trivia question today, Tuesday or Wednesday. So look back on Thursday for a trivia question. All right. You can find the show at Locked On Canadiens just about everywhere we are posting things. Thank you for subscribing, for listening, and for making us your first listen of the day, and for making us the #1 sports podcast network here at Locked On. Really love saying that. You guys are the reason why that's true. We hope that you guys stay with us, despite the fact that this team is not winning games right now. We hope that we can keep it entertaining for you as we get through this tough patch. You can find the show Locked On Canadiens everywhere we're posting things: Bluesky, Instagram, and TikTok. You can email us lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. We do a mailbag every week. That's probably the best way to get your questions to us. So send us those questions. We'll get to them at the end of the week, or we'll turn them into entire segments if they're if the question demands it. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow after the Columbus Blue Jackets game.